Nashville, Austin, and Memphis are renowned for their impact on the American music scene. But one place that doesn't get mentioned too often is Nazareth, Pennsylvania. This tiny town, nestled in the Lehigh Valley, has been the birthplace of guitars that have been used by people like Johnny Cash, Bob Dylan, Eric Clapton, Kurt Cobain, and so many more since 1833. This is Made in America, and today we're visiting Martin Guitars. We're hitting the road in search of America's most interesting companies to answer one question: why are you proud to be made in America? The founder of Martin Guitars, Christian Frederick Martin, began his career in Prague as a craftsman. At the time, the guild system still ruled Europe, and two competing guilds were waging war over the guitar industry: the cabinet makers and the violin makers. Their ensuing legal battle was enough to push Christian Frederick out of Europe and all the way to America. So Chris, when we talk about Martin as a guitar company, as a brand, we're really telling a story almost of your family and of a lot of innovation that's occurred over the years. Tell me a little bit about how they were developed and how your family started making these.
So CF Sr. came to the US 186 years ago in 1833. Prior to that, he worked in Vienna in the Stauffer workshop. Mr. Stauffer is known today as the father of the Viennese school of guitar design. And so these are Stauffer-influenced Martin guitars. Came to New York City, opened a shop at 196 Hudson Street. You know, the advantage he had was certainly he knew what he was doing. And America was ripe for the guitar. The advantage the guitar has always had is its portability. So you're an immigrant. You're coming to some city on the East Coast. You may not stay. That may be the landing point, and now you're headed west or south, maybe by Conestoga wagon. And you could find room on your Conestoga wagon for a guitar. Piano, not so much.
Not gonna happen, Harp, a little bit harder, but guitar, definitely more portable.
Lived and worked in Manhattan for, was it 6 years? Let's see,
33 to 39.
And I think what was going on was Mrs. Martin, she would come out periodically to visit friends who had settled in the Lehigh Valley, German immigrants. And I think she went back one day and said, "We're moving."
Happy wife, happy life, right?
I have found a community similar to the community we left in Germany, same topography, rolling hills. And so in 1839, they moved out here. They ended up buying a piece of property right up the street here, right? Cherry Hill, on the top of the hill. And then in 1858, the town incorporated itself, and they moved downtown, and we built what we call the old factory in steps over time. So what happened in this transition from New York to Pennsylvania is that at the same time that they moved the business, CF pivoted in terms of what he decided to make. A couple of years ago, a bunch of guitar scholars, believe it or not, there are guitar scholars, came and said, "We want to try and unravel this mystery." Well, why, in fact, did CF basically stop making something like this and start making something like this? They concluded that what most people, even back then, pictured in their mind, when you said guitar, the image they had was of a very traditional Spanish classic guitar. Back then, the Spanish builders were located in Cadiz, which is down southern Spain, right on the Mediterranean, hot and humid. The guitars, even though the Spanish have always wanted to export, the guitars didn't travel very well. And I think the advantage he had was he built them in the climate in which they would live.
That makes a lot of sense.
And so when someone bought it and it survived the winter, they're like, that was a good value. Right? So now people are saying, Mr. Martin makes not cheap guitars, but they are durable.
Before Martin Guitars hear the roaring cheers of an audience, they hear this. It all starts right here in the manufacturing area. So we're in the custom shop area of the factory where you do kind of one-of-a-kind and different sorts of Martin guitars.
We're always trying to push the boundary for what we're doing, whether it's something that you don't even see in the guitar, but a lot of the time it's something that you do see as far as custom inlay. And so this is a top from a model we're building now. It's based off of the tattoo artwork of Sailor Jerry.
That's really cool.
And for this, we're using some different types of pearl, which is your usual kind of inlay for an acoustic guitar. but we're also using a process called sand shading. You can look back behind us, you see the frying pan with the sand in it.
Right.
So that's what we're using that for. You heat that up, you know, just burn the different hues into the wood, and then we can inlay it into the top or the back, wherever we need it. Now this is our bracing area. This is where the braces are applied, and this is also where the braces are shaped. So here I have a top with an example of a scalloped bracing pattern.
Okay.
And this is a non-scallop pattern.
Got it.
So if you look at the scallop pattern, you can see that some of the brace material is removed. And so what this usually results in is a guitar that has a little more volume and a little more bass response.
Okay.
And then with this pattern, it's a little more balanced.
So these are still placed by hand?
Exactly.
By people here in the factory. So they are making sure that it's in the exact position that they want it, and the same way that Martin has been doing it for a long time.
Yeah, and with these braces, there's different positions for the bracing, but we have different patterns, so whoever is applying the braces knows this guitar gets a forward shifted pattern, or this gets a standard shifted pattern.
That's really fascinating. It affects the sound, and it affects just a lot of different aspects of the guitar once it's finished, but you don't necessarily see it, but it makes a huge difference.
This is part of our custom shop here where we still hand-shape necks.
Yeah.
I mean, we use a lot of old world building methods still here. The materials, the glues that were used since the beginning of the company, like hide glue, and some of our instruments call for that, or sometimes a customer, you know, they don't want a CNC machine neck, but there's certain customers out there that they only want a neck that is hand-shaped with a draw knife and files. So that's what they would be doing here on these stations.
Okay, fascinating. That's really awesome.
So here we're at our bending area.
Right.
And so one of the keys is to take a wood that is only about 1/8 of an inch thick,
Yeah.
and bend it in the shape for an acoustic guitar. You would just get this wet, mist it with water, and then take a bending iron and bend it by hand.
Ooh.
I mentioned we like to use processes that we think can help the company, that can help our employees. And so over time, we've brought in different equipment to help with things like this. So we have bending presses back here that we use.
Okay.
So you have to moisten the piece of wood, put it in the bending press, and hit a button, and then the press does the work for you.
Interesting.
And you get the shape for whatever guitar you need. So here, we're gluing in this ribbon lining.
Yeah.
And what this is for, this creates a larger gluing surface to glue the top and the back on.
Okay.
Because we just looked at the side, saw how thin that was. Exactly. So to try to glue the top and the back on a side like that, I mean, it's really not going to work out that well. So we use this Spanish cedar ribbon lining. It has these curves in it, so it's flexible.
Okay.
You want to feel that?
Oh wow, fascinating. Okay.
So once that's glued in, it's dried. What we're going to do is we're going to sand the ribbon lining smooth with the side, and then we can apply the top and the back.
Wow, okay, so that's what she's doing here then, is applying the clothespins just to make sure that this dries, stays in place, and then you're good to go.
Exactly.
That's unbelievable. How cool is that? This is where you start to see it really
look like a guitar body.
Yeah.
So we have a couple of different types of presses here. These actually have a bladder that fills with air, and that helps to keep the top and the back on when they're being glued. So what they're doing over behind us is just making sure that they have the proper amount of glue on the ribbon for the top and the back, making sure that where the X braces line up, there's no ribbon in the way, just so you can get good wood-to-wood contact. Well, after the body, the top and the back are glued on, the body would come to this area. This is the binding area. It would go through a process called phrasing. So what we're doing is we're cutting the channel in the body of the guitar so we can put the inlay in it. So we have a couple examples back here. So this is a top inlay that you would find on a 00028.
There you go.
That's herringbone, it's wood marquetry. Martin's been using that since the 1850s.
That's some amazing detail on this, also with that herringbone pattern. That's really cool. So this gets set inside the wood before it gets laminated or anything like that, right?
Yeah, before there's any kind of finish on the guitar, we're gonna cut the channel, glue that into place, and then we're also gonna glue the binding material that we need.
Okay.
So this is grained ivory.
Uh-huh.
So it's made to represent elephant ivory.
Right, but not actual ivory.
No, Martin stopped using ivory for inlay in 1918.
What purpose does this serve in the overall creation of the guitar, just having this binding? Is it just reinforcement around the outside?
The binding can give you a little reinforcement around the edges.
Yeah.
Top inlay, things like that. That's more decorative.
Decorative?
Yeah, just to give the guitar a different look.
Okay.
Well, we'll walk down to neck assembly.
Oh, okay.
That's really the next step when you're walking through here. You have your body assembled.
Yeah.
You have everything glued in before it gets to the finishing department.
Sure.
We have to have the neck assembled, and then we can match those up in final assembly. So this is our fretting department.
Okay.
We have the neck that would come up from our machine room. And so first step we need to do is they glue the head plate on there.
Yep.
And then you would need to have your truss rod glued in.
Truss rod runs through the neck and gives the neck some stability, right? Because
Exactly.
it's a piece of wood, and as you mentioned earlier, there's a lot of tension from those strings, so you have to have
Exactly.
something kind of reinforcing the neck of the guitar.
Yes, because the neck is going to bow differerly based on the environment, based on string tension, so this gives you adjustability. You glue the truss rod in, and then here in the fretting department, the fingerboard would come up from our machine room. They would already have the inlay installed.
Okay.
It would get sanded smooth, and then we would need to set our frets into place. After the frets are in place, we have this fret press that has about 1,000 pounds of pressure on it, and then it seats all the frets at one time. So then after you have your frets glued in,
Yeah.
you can glue the fingerboard onto the neck.
Awesome.
So one of the things I always like to mention is how clean the factory is.
Yeah.
So even though they're sanding here, you're not getting debris out in the tour aisle.
Right.
We do hundreds of tours a year.
Sure.
And we want to make sure that everybody has a good experience when they're on the tour.
Yeah.
And we have a clean environment for the workers
That's
too.
really great.
And so we have a dust collection system that we use
Okay.
for operations like that. So all of that dust, those are vacuum booths. So it's getting sucked into that dust collection system. This is the filling department. And so wood is porous, so you need to put a filler on it, or else when we put finish on the guitar, it's going to sink into the wood.
Yeah.
But we don't tape off a lot of the areas like the binding and inlay, and so what they're doing is they're actually scraping the filler off of those areas.
Okay.
So these are polishing, robotic polishing cells.
Okay.
They were brought in about 15 years ago.
Okay.
And so this helps do some of that polishing process for us.
Wow.
Now, that robotic arm and that wheel, there's constantly points that they're trying to meet at.
Yeah.
So it's really important to make sure that you're programming the right body size into this computer that operates the robot.
Right,
Because then things are gonna not quite be right.
At first, when I was seeing guitar bodies and I saw these big spinning wheels, I was like, I'm nervous. Like, are you sure you want to push this up against this? I don't know.
It's a flannel material.
Okay.
So it's like a flannel shirt you would wear. That's
Right.
really one of the best things you can polish a guitar with.
I'll remember that next time I'm wearing a flannel shirt.
If you have an old flannel shirt, don't
right.
throw it away, just polish your guitars with it.
Perfect. I wonder who makes the robot. Like, do you know?
A company called Fanuc.
Fanuc. Okay. I was actually at a show in Chicago last week and I met people from Fanuc because it was a big robotic show.
Yeah.
So it was really interesting to get to talk to them. And it's cool to see it in action here. So Ed gets to do the quality check. And
Exactly.
sign off on whether or not this gets the Martin name and goes out the door as a Martin.
I mean, the thing is, sometimes you never know who's going to buy that guitar. If you walk into a guitar shop and they have a big selection of acoustic guitars, and you pick up a Martin for the first time and it's not what you expect, you might look at another brand, and that's the last thing we want.
Right.
Feel this one. Tell me if it feels good to you. Yeah.
I do a little bit, yeah. That feels nice. This passes the Tyler test. I don't know if it passes the Ed test, but it passes my test anyway. It's like it's awesome. When C.F. Martin left Europe in search of a new place to pursue his craft, he made his way here to Nazareth, Pennsylvania after a brief pit stop in Manhattan. The Moravian roots here provided him with a community of skilled craftsmen with a deeply rooted appreciation for music. I'm on my way to the Moravian Historical Society to talk to several experts about how that partnership has produced nearly 200 years of guitar building excellence. So one of the things we've heard is that part of the reason Martin Guitars moved here was because they were struggling in New York, but that's not necessarily the case. It was more searching for some of the things that Moravian Society provides.
Yeah, it's actually a really common misconception. People thought that, why else would a company want to move from, New York to small town USA, basically,
right.
even back then. But no, it was actually, more of a personal, more of a family reason. Martin, especially his wife, actually found a lot of feeling like home really here, and for some people that really means a lot.
Absolutely, and even just talking to you and talking to other people around Nazareth, it's hard to run into somebody who doesn't know somebody or is related to somebody, or they themselves haven't worked at Martin. Like everybody we've met knows somebody that works at Martin Guitars.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. That's kind of how Nazareth as a whole is, though. Yeah. And even Nazareth, and that goes back to the Moravian, communities too. Community is family.
And that community and that craftsmanship that we've talked about, and then all of these different elements really formed a great place to have a guitar factory.
Yeah, it's the perfect storm really to create such a great musical industry.
John, this is an area of the country that has a real history of excellence when it comes to craftsmanship. And specifically when we look at musical instruments, which is one of your specialties, that's something that has really flourished here in this part of the world.
Sometimes this section of Pennsylvania, even far away from Philadelphia, is considered the cradle of the American piano, because it was here that among the German immigrants, and certainly the Moravians, was a particular genius for mechanical things and terrific love of music.
Now you're working on a project right now where you are really researching what's believed to be the oldest upright piano created in North America, and it was done right here in Nazareth, Pennsylvania. What do you say we go take a look at it?
Let's do.
All right. Explain to me what we're looking at here when we look at possibly the oldest known upright piano created in North America.
Well, we've taken it apart partially because we're measuring individual parts and getting ready to try to make a copy of this. But the keys normally go down here. We'll see them in a minute over there.
Okay.
And the tuning pins are here, the strings, and it's in its correct orientation. And the stand fits just the size, the footprint of the instrument onto the floor. We've got it temporarily on a work table.
All right, so Tom, we're looking at the keys now for this upright piano that we've been talking about. Tell me a little bit about the craftsmanship that goes into making these and what materials are used and that sort of thing.
A lot of what you see, particularly when you're playing the piano, are the more exotic woods. On the sharps, we have walnut on the side, and this is bone along the top. For the naturals, what we're looking at here is ebony.
Okay.
Highly polished and shaped and scribed with curved edges. Mounted over those keys are these, actually called squares.
Okay.
This is what one of them looks like.
Wow.
Okay, and it's actually mounted this way, and the key pushes on the back so that it can pivot. These hammers are actually very interesting in that half of that part that strikes the string is made of brass.
Oh, okay.
Okay, the other half is leather. And there's a mechanism inside there. There's a hand stop. Looks like this. Let's get the right one here. Mounted here, and you can pull that stop forward. And what it does is it very subtly shifts this hammer back and forth so that you have either the leather striking the string or the brass string.
Give you a different resonance, a different sound.
Two different sounds, yeah. And that was an aesthetic of that period. This is part of what helps us understand when the instrument was made, because there's no date on this
Place
instrument.
it in history.
Yeah, it really does, and particularly by comparing it to other instruments that were built in Europe, particularly in Germany and Austria, that there is a similarity here. So it's clear to us that we don't know who built this instrument, but we do know that he must have come from that part of Europe.
So the next time you think of America's great music cities, remember to add Nazareth to the list. It may not be full of music halls or honky tonks, but this small Pennsylvania town has had an impact on American music that few others have.